Hey guys, More Style Baseball here. We're back with another episode of More Style Podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode. Now that's where the money is. Hey guys, so we have here Matt Antonelli. I've been trying to get a hold of this guy for a long time, but I know he's a pretty busy guy. So I really kind of wanted to pick his brain on a big topic, which a lot of people kind of don't know which route to go. A lot of kids don't know which route to go. So it's travel ball, right? So what program can they choose, or should they choose? So I figure who would be better than Matt Antonelli to ask this question. So by the way, I appreciate you for taking the time.
No problem.
So if you have a kid that's looking for a program that you think he's gonna get developed,
Yes.
like how do they know which route to go?
It's a great question. Well, I think the development part is the biggest piece of it. There are millions of programs out there. I know in just my area, you can go every 2-3 miles, you can find a new program. And there's a lot of really good programs. There's a lot of programs that I think probably aren't that good. Right. I think the number one thing is the development part of it. And we talked earlier about being able to go someplace where you know that you're going to get the coaching, someone that has developed players that have moved on to play at higher levels. I think most players that come into programs, they want to work with people, or their goal is to move up. And so can you find instructors, can you find coaches, can you find somebody that has done it in the past and that can develop you? The way you do it, it makes it a little bit difficult. I mean, the way that we use is social media to be able to get our message out there so people can see, what our coaches are like, what am I teaching? And then hopefully the players are able to see that and realize, okay, this is someone that, whether I'm an infielder, he seems to really understand how to take me to the next level. And that's how we get a lot of our players. But for players, I think you just got to do your due diligence. You have to try to find, the good news is there's so much info out there, which is good. You just got to learn how to kind of filter through it and find a spot where I think, a program that's developed players before. Again, the coaching part is so huge. Someone that can really help guide you and take you to the next level.
Now, do you think travel? Sorry, we lost the audio. Do you think every player should play travel ball? It's tough to for every kid to play travel ball.
Yeah, I get that question a lot. I think it depends on the part of the country that you're in. I think certain parts, in our area, travel ball is probably, especially when you're looking at post-Little League kids, there's not a ton of options. If you look probably 15, 20 years ago, Legion was much better, Babe Ruth was much better. Not to say that they're bad in all areas. There's some parts of the country where it's still fantastic. So I think it does depend. You don't have to play travel ball. I usually go by, my dad always, so this is one thing he did with me, my dad always told me the key and what he tried to do is to get me to play with and against the best players possible. That was his goal, whether that was travel ball, Legion ball, Babe Ruth, Little League, whatever it is. He was always looking for, okay, how can he put me in a position where I've got to compete every day for a spot on my team? So I'm playing with the best players, practicing with the best players, and then I want to be someplace where I can compete against the best players because that's going to push me to work hard and be the best player I can be. So that might be travel ball. In some areas it is, but not in all areas. So there's certain places where you can go play outside of travel ball and you can get that same experience. So I think that's the main thing. And also obviously travel ball costs money. Not everybody can afford to play travel ball. I try to help as many kids as possible, but it is a business, and we do offer a lot, and it costs money. So sometimes it's tough to allow everyone to play for us. I wish we could work with everybody. Right. But I do think that players, whether it is travel ball or not, I think there's still opportunities to find. There's a lot of great coaches that aren't involved in travel ball at all. You just got to do the work to find them.
Right. And what age do you recommend them starting in travel ball?
Oh, that's a good question. So I started at 13. But that was back when 13 was kind of like, I was back when travel ball was just kind of getting going, at least in my area. So I started at 13. Again, the reason I did it was because, and I also played some town stuff with a lot of my buddies, but the team that I played for was one of the better teams around. And like I said, my dad was trying to push me, always wanting to play against older kids, play against better kids. And so that worked out well for me. Now, there's travel ball teams as young as like 5 years old now, so there's all different ages. My son's 10. He started playing travel ball in our program. I basically use the same philosophy as my dad, so I'm trying to get him around as good of players as possible. And we felt like that was a good age for him. At the same time, I don't want to say that and make people think like, oh, if I don't play travel ball at 10 years old, I'm going to miss out. You know, yeah, like a lot of people reach out to me, and I run a travel ball program. People think that I would be like, you know, you got to play, you got to play, you got to play. I don't think that's the case. I think we can definitely help players, but I am not the only one that can help players. I know that. Like, there's tons of other programs, and there's tons of programs outside of travel ball that can help players. So I wouldn't get so consumed with I need to do travel ball, I need to travel the country and all that stuff. It's like you're just looking to get better every single day and put yourself in a position to play against great players and against great players, and that could be anywhere, honestly.
Yeah, because I know that's what I hear a lot from parents. You know, the kids by summertime, at least where we're from in Oklahoma, like the kids are already exhausted, so they don't really want to pick up a baseball anymore. It's probably because they've played too many games. But and that was going to be my next question. You kind of answered already. But do you think kids play too many games? I know in your area it's kind of tough because you start a lot later than we do. But do you think they play a lot of games and they don't focus so much on developing?
Yeah, so I think it depends. So we don't play a lot of games because it's so cold. You know, we don't get outside usually until April, and even sometimes in April it's not really baseball yet for a little while. So I think it depends on the part of the country that you're in. I don't think there's a problem playing in games, but I think there's a problem if you're only playing in games and you're not practicing. So I do think some people get consumed with games, and that's all they worry about. So I don't mind players playing in a lot of games, but if it's coming at the expense of practicing, it's not, in my opinion, the best option for development. So I think you should be practicing more than playing in games. I mean, I even think about, like, as a professional player, we played in, you know, between spring training and the season, almost 200 games a year, which is a ton of games. But we practiced. I mean, we had practice before every game as a professional. So, you know, we're playing a lot of games and people only see the games, but we have basically 250 days of practice a year, because before a game I'm getting, you know, 75 ground balls, I'm hitting in the cage, I'm working on drills, I'm hitting on the field, like I'm getting a full practice in. And then you've got a lot of younger kids that they don't do any of that. It's like show and go and just play games, and they're not developing in practice. So, I think practice is where you're gonna build the skills, and then the game is just to, like, it's really to test out the skills. Okay, is what I worked on in practice, is that able to translate? Is it able to translate, and does it work? Does it work in the game? And so that's like the test, and then it's like, okay, it ain't working. Right. Well, I got to work harder in practice, or maybe it is working. Beautiful. Like, I've got my plan, and I got to keep working. But yeah, I think just playing in games probably isn't the best model. Right. And I know it can be hard because there's a lot of tournaments all year round now, and people want to play in a lot of, like, they want to play in games. And, you know, I have this conversation all the time with people. They want to play every 12 months even in Massachusetts, they want to fly all over the country and play, which, again, I'm not going to tell people don't go play baseball, but if you're only worried about playing and you're not worried about practicing, it's not the best recipe for development.
Hey guys, if you would like to work with me remotely and learn what it takes to become an elite infielder, just send me an email right here below, or you can click the link in the description and book a call with me, or you can also send me a DM, whatever you follow me, and I'll get you started on the right path. Yeah, and I think, I think Nate Trotsky might have touched on that a little bit, but I know he's in the Dominican Republic a lot, and I know where I'm from, that's what we did a lot. We trained a lot more than we played, and I think that's why nowadays you get a lot more Latin players coming over to the country, and, like, actually you're getting more and more that are just developing, and they're getting so much better just at practicing. Because sometimes here, I think in the U.S., like you're saying, like, you have to have a balance, right? You can't just be playing a bunch of games and not practice at all. You have to really work on your craft first. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say about how we watched Nate, and he was working with players in there for, 20, 30 minutes maybe we watched? Something around there. At least that's how much I watched. I would argue that he had 3 infielders, I think, in there working with him. I would argue that those 3 infielders just got way better in a ballroom working those drills than they possibly could get playing it if they had gone and played in a 3-hour game. Right. You know, like, just watching the way they worked in there. And that's not even on a field. That's just working very simple. There's so many things that you can work on Just talking infield, we were talking a little bit, and like you listen to Nate, there's so many small details that you can practice and work on, and you have to do those things like thousands and thousands of times. The game doesn't give you the reps that you need to develop that stuff.
Yeah.
You got to do it through repetition, and the only way to do it is practice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and I that's what I tell my kids all the time. Now, I know I'm kind of going back and forth, but what about daddy ball? So, so in Oklahoma, I shouldn't say Oklahoma, but I already did. We don't have that many, that much access to coaches, actual coaches, right? So obviously, dads have to step in and take on that role, which is pretty tough. But so, what do you recommend? Because I know I get kids all the time, like, well, they're doing daddy ball. So, like, where do they go from there? Like, how do they? Because if there are not that many coaches, like, should they stay on that team and just continue developing on their side, or should they just jump from one team to the next, or what do you think?
It's a tough question.
Yeah,
it's good. I'll say this: I think that I've seen it both ways. I've seen some dads that are very good coaches. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I actually, it's not. I wouldn't call it daddy ball, but I'm a dad that coaches this year. My son played for me this past year. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of dads out there that are really, really good coaches. I think the daddy ball aspect of it is, and you can see this, I've seen this with teams where, the coach's son is clearly not the best shortstop, yet he's playing shortstop every inning.
Right.
I think if you're on one of those teams, then that might not be the best option for you.
Yeah.
So maybe you need to find a new program or a new team. I hate having to jump around from team to team, but it's like there are bad situations out there, I do think.
Yeah.
The thing that we do with our program, and I don't know, there's, because we have dads that coach in our program, but one of the main things that I did with our program is say, okay, I want to build a philosophy. This is how we field in the infield. This is how, we hit. I know there's different styles and everything, but like these are our core principles for fielding, hitting, catching, outfield, pitching, whatever. We've got this idea of how we want to do it. And then we do have some dads that coach because, like you said, there's not an infinite amount of coaches out there, and there are a million teams. So, I mean, there's just not that many coaches to go around.
Right.
So, like, then it's my job, I feel, it's my job to coach the coaches. Whether it is a dad or not, it's to coach the coaches to make that, to improve their ability to coach, and then they're able to go and translate the lesson or whatever it is to the players. So, I think, that's the way we do it. Because we talked earlier about how it's hard to find good coaching.
Right.
So part of my responsibility is to coach up the coaches and get them better. And it's one of the reasons why I started doing YouTube and that stuff, because I get a lot of questions and realize my biggest question is, I'm a dad, I coach this team, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what do I do? That's why I kind of started the YouTube channels and social media. I was like, okay, I feel like I've got a pretty good knowledge base. I've been lucky and learned from a lot of good people. Let me pass on the info so that if you're a dad from California, Florida, whatever, and you aren't really sure what you're doing, you can take a lot of my stuff and apply it. So, I think, like I said, the only daddy ball thing, is I feel like when the coach's son is getting advantages that he's only getting because his dad's the coach, and like with my son gets mad at me all the time because last year I hit him like 7th in the order. He's like, Dad, why am I hitting 7th? I said, because you don't deserve to hit in the top 4. I don't know. Not every dad's like that, but at least that's my philosophy.
No, that's pretty awesome. I got a couple more questions. I'm not trying to keep you up here too long, but I kind of wanted to transition into the so how do kids, because I know you send a lot of kids to college, right? And I know you talked about that earlier. So how do they, which route do they go? Like, they're like, okay, I want to go to college, but I don't know where the heck to start. Like, where do I go to a showcase type of team, or who do I get with?
Yeah, as far as
like basically
figuring out what college to go to?
Well, or just knowing what it takes to go to play at the college level.
So part of my responsibility, I feel like, with all of our players is to give them guidance on where they can play and to be honest with them. And I always tell our guys, like, I'm not 100% on my evaluation, but I'm usually pretty good at it. I mean, I going back to like picking a program, if you're a high school kid, I think it's important to pick a program that has somebody that can give you guidance, evaluate you, and give you guidance on where you can play. And then okay, we decide that we feel like you're a really good fit at maybe like a smaller Division III college program. Okay, now how do we get you in front of those coaches? What showcases could you go to? Which college camps? Like, that's one of my main responsibilities with the older guys.
Right.
And then to be really honest with them, a lot of kids and parents especially, sometimes they get mad at me because they don't agree with what I tell them. And there's other coaches that will, I don't want to say lie to kids, but they won't give the best information. They'll say, oh, you are no doubt a Division I player because if you stick with me, I'm gonna get you there.
Right.
And that's not always the best advice. And sometimes I just try to be truthful and honest with the players, give them as much info as I can. I try to give every player a target list. We reach out to schools, and then we figure out like what schools get back to us. Like I reach out to everybody about our players, not everybody, but we come up with 50 schools. I think these are 50 schools that could fit you.
Right.
We reach out to them, we see who reaches back, who's interested, and go from there. And then you just kind of tweak your list. So I think it's important to have somebody that can kind of help you do that.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't have to be a travel program. It can be any. It can be a high school coach. It can be really anybody.
Right. Not somebody that's gonna blow smoke at you.
That's the biggest thing, I think, is just to find someone that will give you honest feedback.
Right.
Which, again, I've lost some players from our program because what I've told them they didn't like, because I've said, I feel like you can play, whatever, let's just say the D3 example again. I think you're a Division III player. They say, no, I am an ACC player. And I say, listen, right now you are not an ACC player. We've had ACC players. You're going to waste your time if you spend all your time trying to get yourself to a Division I school right now, given whatever time of year it is. And some players will say, well, then I'm going to go someplace else, which will tell me what I want to hear.
Right.
So sometimes we lose players, and it's like, well, I can only be honest and give you my honest feedback. And if you don't, most players appreciate it, most families
Right.
appreciate it, some don't, and I guess that's their decision, but I'm just trying to help players.
Yeah, if I was a parent, I would appreciate that because it's a lot of time and money, and
It is.
it's crazy. But for the kids that are trying to go D1, because obviously everybody wants to go D1.
Yeah.
Do you recommend going the JUCO route first, or
Well-
which route do you recommend?
Yeah, that's a good question. So everything,
If you don't feel like they're ready.
everything is changing right now in college
No, that's
baseball.
true.
So,
Yeah.
they've got the whole new JUCO thing that I don't even know if it's happened yet or not, but potentially, not
think
losing
it's
years
coming,
of
yeah.
eligibility.
Yeah.
So, like, that could definitely be more of a route for players to go JUCO. I think it depends on what part of the country you're in. Like, I'm in the Northeast. We don't have a ton of JUCO options, so a lot of players don't go JUCO from our area. Some do, but there's not a lot of options. I definitely think that can be a route for some players.
Right.
I think we have a couple of routes. So JUCO is probably on the lower end for our area. If you're, maybe down south, there's usually more options, and so that's one option. Another one would be, so we have a lot of players will post-grad or reclass in our area. I don't know if that's huge around the rest of the country, but a lot of players, I will recommend that to players if I feel like they are very, very close. There's some players that come to me and they're like, Matt, I want to go D1, I want to do a post-grad year or reclass and get an extra year, and I feel like they're so far away that I'm honest with them, and I'm like, listen, I don't know even if that reclass year or PG year is going to get you to Division I level.
Yeah.
You might just end up, still at the D3 or maybe D2 level or whatever. So maybe it's not the best thing for you. There's a lot of players that it is the best thing for them where they can continue to develop. And then the other thing might just be, a lot of times I just say, listen, if D1's that's where you want to go, I understand that everyone does, but I think it's about finding the best fit for you. So, like, what's the right fit? And if D1's not the right fit, like, why are we trying to jam, the square peg in the round hole? Let's go to where's best for you. And that's not to say you could go there, dominate, and D1 opportunity could come down the road. So, I don't know. I think it's like you want to go where we feel is the best fit for you, where you can go and compete for a chance to play and, prove yourself. And that can be at any level. And if you are supposed to be a D1 player down the road, you probably will. If you'll probably end up where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Is usually my advice. And some players, you might want to get there right now, but it's just not your time right now. Maybe in 3 years it is your time.
Yeah.
So again, that's part of like the evaluation process for me. I'm not like always 100% with it, but we've now been, it's like year 11 for us. We've had,
Yeah.
we average every year, usually 15 to 20 kids go to college a year, so we're looking at over 200 kids probably at this point. So I feel like I got a pretty good feel of, how players are developing, and everyone's different. Like there's been some kids from like he's, I don't know, he's small, he's got slow feet, blah blah blah. 2 years later, I'm like, I messed up on that one. Like, dude's grown 5 inches. He's way more physical. He hit the weight room. His feet are working way better, and they play at a really high level. So,
Yeah. No, that's pretty good stuff. Now, my last question is kind of like 2 questions in one, I guess.
Yeah.
I know you play at the major league level, so obviously that's, the highest level to me you can play, right? So, what do you think was the biggest difference going from, high school to minor league, and then going from minor leagues to the big leagues?
So, well, the big leagues that's no doubt the hardest jump.
Mm-hmm.
You're facing the best players of the best players. I get a lot of crap. It's funny. I get a lot of crap from people that say, like, why should we listen to you? You hit 200 in the major leagues. And they kind of act like, it's easy. It's easy to play in the major leagues.
Right.
So, like, I always think, like, I was always considered, like, I went to Wake Forest in the ACC. I was a first-round draft pick. I was always considered, like, the best players, a number, 1 or 2 prospect for the Padres. And then I got to the big leagues. I struggled and went back to the minor leagues and had, like, an okay minor league career, right? But it's like, it's hard. It's, like, really hard to get to that level. I'm amazed. I had a year and a half in the big leagues of service time. I probably played in like 30 games, maybe not even that amount. As someone that played in the league, I'm amazed at how good you have to be to not just get there, but to stick there. Like the guys that you see playing every day on TV, the household names, they're so amazingly good that I don't think most people understand how good they are. So that's the biggest jump. I made my high school jump to college jump. I don't want to say it was easy, but I got lucky and I played from the first day I stepped on the college campus. When I went from college to pro ball, I jumped in pretty well and was, really successful. AAA was kind of the first spot that I hit a roadblock. Mm-hmm. And the thing about AAA is it's a lot of guys that have been to the big leagues and are bouncing back and forth and that really know how to play the game. So it's not just about skill anymore. It's not about who can run the fastest and throw the hardest and all this stuff. It's like who can play the game the best. And it's like on another, it's on another level. Even the guys that you see in AAA that are like 4A guys that kind of bounce back and forth, they're unbelievable. They're really, really, really good.
But I'm assuming obviously the pitching is going to be harder. But what do you think? Why do you think it's so much harder? That like let's say the pitching from AA to major leagues, because they can spot better, or because they're still throwing hard, right?
Yeah, the thing that I saw the most was just the ability to pitch when. Like the velo didn't really get that much hard. Now nowadays, well, I shouldn't say that. Everyone throws hard now. Even rookie ball guys are throwing 100 now. Mm-hmm. But the biggest difference I saw, I would say, AAA was the first time I saw it, was that, and then you see it a lot in the big leagues. It's like I fight to get into a 2-0 count, and I'm like, okay, I'm in a 2-0 count. Because I personally loved hitting fastballs. So I'm like 2-0 count, I'm ready to roll, and the guy throws me a changeup. Whereas in like AA or single A or college or high school, he's laying me a fastball and I can hammer it. Mm. So I take the changeup and I'm like, I wasn't looking for that pitch. And then it's 2-1 and now he throws me a cutter and I'm like you don't see many cutters when you're younger. Right. And I'm like, yeah, I take that pitch and now it's 2-2 and now I have no idea what's coming. So I started noticing that a lot at AAA. And then the big leagues, it's just like another step up. It's like they can throw any pitch at any count. They can pitch in very, very well. So it's just really hard. I don't know how anyone hits in the big leagues today, honestly, because I watch and I'm like, now it's not only guys can throw any pitch in any count, but they're throwing like 91 mile an hour sliders. Like it's like 2-0 and he's throwing me a 91 slider. Like I would give up at that point if I was a hitter. I don't know how they hit it, but they're throwing more off speed than fastballs. But the off speed is hard and they command it well, and the fastballs are all like 95 plus, which makes the off speed even harder to hit. It's really, really hard.
That's crazy. What about infielders? Infielders are pretty is the jump pretty a big difference, or it's
defensively huge difference.
from the big leagues to the minor leagues?
Yeah, AAA. I always feel like AAA and the major leagues. I don't want to say they're the same. They're not the same. It's a different caliber player in the big leagues, but like you get really, really good caliber players in AAA. But AAA was the first level probably where because I was pretty fast and I'd hit a ball in the 6 hole, and at most levels it's a hit. And like I'm running down the line, I think I got a hit, and all of a sudden, boom, the ball's there, and I'm like, that's supposed to be a hit, and it's not a hit anymore. The same thing in the big leagues. A lot of people will say, like, they'll watch the big league games and they'll be like, oh, no one plays defense anymore. They just hit homers and whatever. I mean, I don't know. I didn't play that long ago, and the defense is incredible. I don't think people give major leaguers the credit that they give the big time guys the credit, but like the average play in the big leagues is still incredibly good. And there's so many balls that I hit in a hole or I hit a line drive, and I'm like, that's a hit, and it's not a hit.
So the holes shrink in the big leagues.
Yeah, it feels like you're playing with 12 defenders on the field. That's what it feels
That's
like.
funny.
Yeah.
So. Well, this is pretty awesome stuff. I wish I could ask you more questions, but I know you got place to be, and I know they're kicking us out of here too. But you can follow him. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know who he is, but Matt Antonelli. Instagram, YouTube. He has a lot of great information on YouTube. Honestly, I've learned a lot of stuff from him. I told him that I stole a lot of information from him, but so it's pretty good stuff. So I appreciate you, man, for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
And till next time, keep it moist out.